Welcome back. It's our second segment with Erica Elk, CEO of the Craft and Design Institute. And in this second part, we are going to be diving deeper into the work of the Institute and how they've grown in the last 25 years. So where we left off, Erica, we have now a strategy, a roadmap for the Western Cape, how we're going to leverage the tourism opportunities, the retail opportunities. How do we then get going? How does this plane take off?
So we take off with a couple of key partners. Firstly, the provincial government of the Western Cape through their tourism, economic development and tourism. So there's that connection. National Department of Arts and Culture, who at the time were running what they called the Poverty Alleviation Program. And the then Cape Tech, which is now the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, who said they would host the institution.
As in, that would be your place of work?
That would be the place that we... And what they did I realized in hindsight, is they actually incubated us. So they gave us an office, in fact, 2 little offices, in the office with the dean of the design faculty, and provided all of the services and support that we needed to run. So, like reception, security, rooms, finance, all of that stuff. Didn't have to think about it. We had a small budget, 2 people, me and a comms and admin officer, and literally a kind of runway of sort of 3 years of funding.
That's a solid way to start. Because if you look at how other NPOs start, you had a soft landing. It was tremendously cushy because a lot have to start with volunteers, and can't move, and so you and that gives you a solid base from which to be able to plan and execute sustainably, right?
Absolutely.
You were talking about the Cape Peninsula. You were talking about the government itself, and there was a third partner.
So 2 governments: provincial layer, national layer, and then the Cape. The Technicon, which gave us the physical space and the institutional support. And yes, we had, the budget was 250,000 Rand at the time, enough to employ 2 people for a year. And then the National Department of Arts and Culture had a 3-year project budget.
Right.
So as you say, you're right. It was a soft, and we had a strategy. So there was a research had been done. We had identified what the needs were, what the priorities were, and it was, and in a way, a mandate to go and figure this out.
Absolutely.
I said, I remember saying at the time, the other value is that we were in an educational institution, so we could start with the ethos of that we were learning.
Interesting perspective. Yeah, I like that.
So we had some money to run a project. That's really what we were given. And I remember at the time thinking, there were a couple of things I was thinking. The one was I understood that what was going on in the environment didn't feel sustainable. So there was a very sort of welfarist kind of approach to what was happening, not very business oriented or market driven, even though the language at the time, people were using business language, but the practice wasn't consistent with business practice. So there was something that was not working in the way interventions were being done in the environment.
So in those first 3 years, what did you need to deliver, Erica?
We needed to deliver, so the funding from the Department of Arts and Culture was poverty alleviation funding. With that, we said to them, we will go and run a program. We'll identify a couple of craft businesses or projects to work with. We'll do like a diagnostic with them. So we'll try to understand, what is this business? Where is the opportunity? What are they doing? How can they grow? In that process of helping them, we will start to understand what needs to happen in the sector to help others grow. So it was like an applied learning, applied kind of research kind of approach. So so that's what we did in the first 3 years.
So if you look at that first 3-year stretch, how many organizations were you able to work with and do that diagnostic and understand the lay of the land pretty much?
So that project we did, I think it was 6 businesses. Mm-hmm. And in a way, there's the rub, because you can see that I'm quite an ambitious person. So for me, working with 6 businesses over 3 years was not going to cut it. But slow.
Okay.
But it was really instructive, because we learned a lot about working in a deep way with businesses. But part of that learning actually is when we started, there was this sort of theory that actually the gap in the businesses was around their product. And we needed to emphasize working with people to develop their product. Mm-hmm. And my instinct was telling me that actually it was about the market and about market access.
Okay, right.
And that actually the most important thing, and it's become the truth of the work that we've done over the 25 years, is to get people into the market as quickly as possible. Because if they're not in the market and they're not engaging with the marketplace, they're not getting feedback from their customers or potential customers. And it's the feedback from customers that feed everything else in the business. People are buying or they're not buying. So what we learned from that actually built, I think, the sort of programming of of CDI going forward. Mm-hmm. We worked with, let's find different organizations or businesses in the creative, in craft, mm-hmm. actually, and design, so that we can understand, in a way, the system.
Right.
So we worked with a business that was run by 3 guys, who's Streetwise, a very famous Cape Town-based business. Sadly, didn't manage to survive beyond COVID. Mm-hmm.
What were they doing?
They were making art from wire, street wires.
Okay. Oh,
so they were working with wire. So they were working with wire artists.
Streetwise, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, we want to be like KFC. So it's wires.
Streetwise. So they were working with. So there was a time in Cape Town. It's sort of shifted, where there were a lot of wire artists who were making beautiful objects. So these guys came together and said, let's try and run it as a business. There was another business which was like a sole trader who was working from Mossel Bay, and then there were 2 community-based sort of social enterprise, early community-based organizations. And we selected these like 4 different modalities, and we said we sent in a social worker, a business practitioner, sort of business development practitioner, and a sort of design market kind of driven person. And we said, go do a diagnostic of these 3 businesses or these 4, and tell us what needs to be done to turn them into a viable enterprise. Actually, we used the word enterprise because that covered different sort of modalities.
Can you recall what the social worker came back and said?
So interestingly, in the community-based organizations, there were a lot more social issues that were constraining the effectiveness of the social enterprise.
But we sent the social worker to every organization, right?
To all of them, but actually, even in the business ones, there were less issues because there was more focus.
Okay.
And actually, what we learned from that, it was really a really interesting exercise, was that in the businesses, the 2 businesses that we supported, we spent the least effort and the least money and had the most impact. With the 2 sort of community-based social enterprises, we spent the most money, the most time, and had the least impact.
Fascinating.
And what we learned from that was around the agency of the drivers.
Okay.
And that is our truth still today, is our job as an organization. So this Craft and Design Institute is a membership-based organization. We have over 8,000 members that are people who subscribe to get support from us. What we need to do, our mission with each one of those 8,500 is to unlock the agency of the person who's driving it, because that's where the sustainability lies.
Are you talking ownership, decision-making, those kind of things?
Confidence, passion, vision. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? What can I do? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? If I can't do this, how do I get help? How do I fill this gap?
I cannot agree with you more, because for me, that speaks to the mindset and how you are programmed as a person. And a lot of business doesn't look at that, but that is a determinant of success. If all things being equal, That is what's going to be the difference, your mindset and your agency. If you have equal access to the same identical resources, the person who's tracking better in terms of agency, ownership, these things, is the one that's going to be more successful.
And they're more able to traverse challenges or to find opportunities. So, and we can't do all of that for everybody. So this was I guess like another sort of epiphany early on is like we could help 6 people over 3 years, or we could help 600 people over 3 years. I want to help 600 people because we don't have time to only help 6 people over 3 years. So what do we need to do to have the maximum impact as an organization?
Right.
So that was also when you said we sort of had the soft landing because we had some funding. There's a route to using that funding to say, okay, we've got this funding, we'll spend it on what we need to spend it on. Or I sort of remember my sort of like, I guess, my entrepreneurial spirit coming. This is like, I can leverage this money because this money is enabling us to buy 2 people. What can these 2 people do beyond delivering on this project? Because we've got 40 hours or 80 hours in a week. So we can deliver this project, but that project's not going to take up all of our time. With the extra time, we can produce a newsletter. We can convene a monthly networking session. We can go as the leader of the organization. I can go and meet with 10 other people in the month and make connections and unlock more funding. So this soft landing that we got from funding from the provincial government and national government actually was, we used it to unlock funding from the city of Cape Town.
Well done.
Funding from the DTI, et cetera, et cetera.
Well done. So let's go back to, you sent 3 investigators in to see each organization. The social worker, there were 2 others.
Business development practitioner.
Right.
And a sort of product designer.
And when they came back and you were able to sift through and slice and dice that data, how did that inform your next steps?
So the first lesson was around the agency. The second was around market driven. So what was happening and what does happen also in the creative industries is people say, I'm an artist, I paint flowers. I'm going to paint flowers because I love painting flowers. And
whether the market wants flowers or not, you are getting flowers from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so actually what the sort of a market-driven approach would be is to say, well, let's go and understand what flowers is the market wanting today? Are they wanting blue flowers or pink flowers or yellow flowers? Big flowers, whatever. How are they wanting the flowers? Are they wanting them in jewelry? Are they wanting them in fabric? So how do I turn this passion of mine or this talent of mine into a product that somebody will buy? I need to go and actually
get the data. Sure. So that I'm going to make data-driven decisions in my business and be able to give to the market what it is looking for.
Yeah.
Excellent.
The trick, and I could get shut down in some circles for this, is where there's like a balance between who I am, who I am, and my sort of creative expression and what I want to say, and meeting a potential market demand. Somewhere there's a balance between me being able to paint the flowers I want to paint, and finding the market that will buy the flowers that I want to paint. If I'm making sense. It's not a linear path. It's an engagement, it's a conversation. And that's why coming back to agency is so important, because the person who's building the business or driving the business needs to be able to have those conversations and read the data and come back and translate it and figure out what to do with it to take the next step.
Absolutely. So those were 2 findings. Any more?
And then the business side of it is that, running a creative business. And in our environment, we started off working with people who are making products, trying to sell product. Mm-hmm. Is you have to also think about the business aspect of it. Is how are you costing the product? What is it actually costing you to make? Are there better ways, more efficient ways of making it? What is the price point that I could be selling it in the market? How do I get to market? What are the different routes to market? How do I want to get into retail? Because selling direct to consumer and selling wholesale to a retailer are different strategies. So there's lots of questions around running a business that you also need to help people think through and make decisions about. So those have become the 3 pillars of the program that we run still today as CDI, helping people think about their product, helping them think about the market and what is the appropriate market or route to market for their product, and how do they build a business that is making money for themselves and helping them, employ people, etc.
So you have a footprint in Joburg and Cape Town. So you're accessible to organizations in those 2 provinces.
Nationally.
Oh, you work nationally.
We started off Cape-based, and in about 2016, we saw that there was a need for our services nationally. In fact, people were coming to us and saying, how can you help us? So we became a national organization.
So what is the point of what is the point of entry into partnership with you? So I'm a creative, and I see what you've done maybe in another organization's life, and I want the same. How do I then start that dialogue with you?
So we've transformed into a membership-based organization. Mm-hmm. We didn't start like that. Mm-hmm. So, again, I think it's something about understanding the environment we were working with and the opportunity and how we help people. So we sign up people as a member. It's free. And what membership does is it brings people into a community of other practitioners. We try to service that membership in ways that, we call it open access. So we bring out a monthly newsletter. We run, thanks to online digital platforms, we run weekly webinars. We convene monthly sort of networking sessions. So just as an open access, free to access, is about bringing people, because being a creative, particularly in our environment, so not necessarily in performance or other genres, can be quite lonely because people are in a studio or a small workspace working on their own. And often I think what we do is we break down that loneliness. We create opportunities for people to become part of a community. Mm-hmm. When you're part of a community, there's opportunities to collaborate, to learn, to share, cry on somebody's shoulders. You learn a challenge that somebody's had and that it's the same challenge you have, so you don't feel like you are doing something wrong. Somebody has a solution for a problem that you're having. So actually just creating that sense of community is really important.
So I sign up as a member, and then is there some sort of assessment or read of where's my business at, kind of like what you did with the first 6? Is there to take a baseline reading of what's working in my business, what's not, where do I need help with?
I wish there was.
Oh.
Your face is so disappointed. So we have a tool. We've got a business assessment tool. Right. That people can take on their own.
Okay, so it's dependent on the person to decide, I'm going to go through this process.
So a lot of what we do requires, we call it, it's self-driven or agency. So it's like from the get-go, I'm signing up because I want to be part of this community. I'm going to take this step to attend this webinar or read this newsletter or whatever because I'm investing in myself and my business. So what I was saying, what I wish is if we had the resources to sit with, because actually the best business assessment is done in conversation with somebody, because we don't know what our blind spots are, and we lie to ourselves all the time, or we hard on ourselves all the time. So actually the best way to do this sort of business assessment is in conversation with somebody who's a skilled facilitator who can, so you get to a real picture of what my business is. But then what we do, and we work very hard at, is raising additional funding to run what we call more sort of growth-directed programs, where we will take on a group of young entrepreneurs who meet particular criteria and work with them, take them through a process so they can think about their product, think about their offering, think about their business system, think about their route to markets. And in that process, we help them build their business. So much more hands-on, more engaged, more sort of facilitated processes.
So what would be the criteria to be part of that cohort?
Depends on what the project is. So we're currently running a program that's funded by the Netherlands government called Orange Corners Designs. And that's for young creatives between the ages of 18 and 35. In fact, not just creatives, it's young people trying to run a business in the creative industries in the circular economy. We have people in fashion. We have people actually in agriculture and food.
Okay, so it's different spaces.
Different spaces.
Okay.
What pulls it together is our approach with those businesses, which is helping people think about who am I, what's my passion, what's my purpose, what's my business, how do I build a business around it.
So what I'm struggling to understand, Erica, is there are a number of different solutions that you offer outside of this project-based one that you've just described. So if I come in, how do we then determine whether I'm getting on the right train?
Yeah.
How do I know if the problem with my business is a market access business or it's a product design business or any other challenge without having assessed upfront where I'm at in my business?
I would say that's probably our challenge as an organization.
All right. Okay.
Because it's a resource-intensive support system. So in an ideal world, every new member that signs up would go for me if I had the opportunity to build my ideal organization. Somebody signs up, we take them through a process, as you're describing. This is me. This is where my business is. This is where I need to be focusing. These are my strengths. These are my opportunities. Just with that, you could set people on a pathway to go and take what they can from the environment.
But right now, the organization is not structured that way. There's resources that need to be found and time, etc., to be able to do that.
Exactly.
But what you do in the meantime is similar to what you've described. You said it's the orange?
So this is the Orange Corners Designs. It's one project.
Okay.
So basically my job, 100% of the time, is to go and find funders or projects so that we can build these sort of deep processes with businesses to help take them through a process.
And the project duration is how long?
3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. It really depends on the resources that we can raise.
So in a typical year, how many projects are you able to?
Yeah. There's no such thing as typical.
I know, right? But
in 25 years.
I have to frame it somehow, Erica. Okay, so then let's look at last year.
We're currently running like 4 or 5 projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for each of them, you would design the project, find the funder, and then get the organizations that are going to be participating
in it, and we help them through.
Very good.
Ideally, as I say, there would be like baseline services that we would have as an organization that we just run.
Maybe
constantly.
Help us understand what those are.
So that would be come in, sign up as a member. We put you in front of a panel of people who have the different skill sets, product, market, business. We do a little diagnostic conversation with you. We look at your product, and try and understand your business, and we have a conversation that puts you on a pathway. That would be one thing.
Is there a cost to this?
Resources, people.
No. I mean, if I want to.
Oh, well, so this is an interesting. There could be. So we could be charging people for that. I guess what stopped us doing that is that becomes a barrier to people taking the next step. So our membership is free exactly for that reason. We don't want any barriers for people. We think that there are enough barriers in the environment as it is.
Yeah.
If we say to people, even if it's 50 Rand or 100 Rand,
that's another hurdle. That's another struggle.
So rather just sign up, come into the system. And then, as I say, there are webinars that you can sign up for. So you're already getting something that's taking you on another step. We put out, as I said, a monthly newsletter that's full of information and ideas and opportunities and connections or whatever. that's already getting somebody, from thinking about it to doing, to moving.
Yes.
Then we say, okay, well, now you could apply for this program or another program,
Part of the ones that we spoke about a few minutes ago, including the Orange
Corners Design.
Orange Corners Design.
Yeah.
So a number of different programs get launched depending on funding availability, and then people can sign up for that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And then you said we've got about 5 or 6 going during the course of the year.
Yeah.
All right, great. Now, how is the organization structured? Because you seem like quite a busy little organization with all these different initiatives on the go.
So we have, we now have an office in Joburg and one in Cape Town. For a long time, we were mostly in Cape Town. We've got an office now at Transvaca, which is at Constitution Hill. We're there for nearly 2.5 years, I think. I guess our sort of offering is we've got a market development team. So we have a small team, three or four people, who think about market access. We run an outlet at the Watershed in Cape Town. We've initiated a monthly market at the castle that could become a national opportunity. And the team is always looking at where are the market opportunities for these members.
So you set up the infrastructure for the market to happen, and then you inform your community so that if anybody wants to come and exhibit there, sell there, then they can.
And we make connections with other market operators. So other market operators come to us and say, we're having a market, or we're having this event, or there's this opportunity, and we push it out to our members, and people sign up and do it. So we like an amplifier of opportunities. So
that's the market access team.
Yes. Then we've got building up a sort of product development team, which manifests in Cape Town and in partnership with a team in Johannesburg in a maker space, so a physical space that has equipment, manufacturing equipment, like from a hammer to a 3D printer. And I can go to the space, and there's a skilled product facilitator, and I can say to this person, I want to make X, or I'm making X, and I'm having this technical challenge, and the space is available for people to come to solve those problems and to unlock new product ideas.
That is so amazing. At no cost.
If
I'm a member.
Cost, if you're a member.
Wow. Can you give me an example of somebody that's gone there? Because, there's so many different iterations of craft. And give me one of your favorite examples that's had a major breakthrough coming through the maker's space.
Gosh, okay, now you're putting me on the spot.
Sorry.
So we have somebody who uses the space quite a lot who developed beaded bra straps. Very nice idea, very, beautiful sort of accessory, but she had to figure out the connections and the strength of it, and so spends time in the lab. Once she got her product right, she had to think about, well, how do I merchandise this? How do I display it so that it looks more than just a piece of beads?
Yes.
So she spent time, and then so she came up with a solution, and then it was plastic. So now I want to try and figure out something that's more sustainable. So she's back trying to figure that out.
That is so cool.
We've had people who ceramics, in fact, a soap maker who came and wanted to make molds for the Big Five to make soap, elephants and rhinos or whatever. Yes. So we helped him make molds with the equipment that helps you make molds. So then he had a real tool that he could go off and make. I'm digging into the recesses of my brain here. A wire worker who had an order to make fruit bowls, actually for an international retail, but now they needed them to be, each one to be exactly the same. So he came into the space and made a template that he could wrap his wire around so that every bowl was had the same diameter or circumference or whatever the word is. So those are somebody else wanted to build an electric guitar, and he came and used the 3D printer and built components of.
That is massive.
A dentist had some idea around some sort of mouthwash thing with this, and he came and 3D printed the element.
And this is the
Makerspace.
The Makerspace. And it's available
Cape Town, and we're partnering with the team at Transvaca to try and unlock the same sort of space. Transvaca's in Joburg.
I think this is the best kept secret I've heard all day.
So, yeah, I mean, again, our ability to deliver that service depends on our resources. So we've been up and down as an organization.
But just think about it. Think about the person you're solving for. I've worked in big businesses where there's a lot of money put aside for R&D. When you're across, where's your R&D coming from? This is it. So you're
that's exactly the motivation behind this space. So we started our first space. It was called the Fab Lab in 2007. Just as this was even pre-3D printers. Just as there was sort of computer-led sort of advanced manufacturing machines coming into play. And that was what we were trying to solve for, is that big companies have R&D budgets, they have R&D teams, they spend a lot of time, a lot of money on developing new products, research and then developing.
I get you, man, Erica. I get you.
The businesses that we support don't have that. So the question was, what can we provide in that space that absorbs some of that cost and some of the risk? So that's exactly what the space is.
Very sharp, very innovative. I love it. I love it. So we've spoken about the market access. We've spoken about the maker space. What else is there? So
the third pillar is around business acumen. So a lot of creatives come, and we're not just working with creatives anymore, but a lot of people come without real business training and a sense around how do I run a business. So a big element of what we do is we provide that training.
And no matter how brilliant your idea is, if this third component isn't in there, you're not going to thrive. You're not going to even take off.
No. And so, we've gone from running learnerships and skills programs to just, workshops, because we got to a point where we realized that actually the people we're servicing aren't really that concerned with accreditation and a certificate. So it's kind of like, I was sort of saying it's almost like just-in-time learning. It's like I have this problem, I need to solve the problem, help me solve the problem. If a lot of people are having the same sort of problem at the same sort of time, then we can run a workshop or a webinar for them. So part of, I guess, what we do is we try and anticipate what people need, so that we can have a rolling program. Kind of COVID did us a bit of a favor, but taking us online. We've also invested in an online learning platform. So in fact, that could be, in a way, it's like a legacy project because it's always on. And the idea is that actually, if we can load content onto this learning platform, then people can dial in 24/7 at a time that suits them.
Absolutely.
And so we're building that platform, we're putting content on it all the time. But while we're doing that, we also run weekly webinars.
So the online learning, is that a project that is still to come, or it's available now?
It's available now.
Okay, but you're just
ongoing
updating
is that platform is as good as the content on it. So we keep having to add content onto it.
And what do you find are the most popular courses that people are choosing to do there?
So actually it's spread, but I think the sort of the financial management, the sort of basic costing and pricing, and then interestingly, business vision, business strategy. I think those are the ones we keep running them. People keep coming to do them. They're also things that you learn something now, and in 6 months' time, actually, if you go do the course again, you'll learn something new. So I think that's we're dealing with adults, we're dealing with people who are working, who are professionals. They don't have a lot of time, so I think that's been the other value of the online stuff is you can do a webinar in an hour or 2 hours. You're not taking people away for too long from their workplace, but you've got to impart really useful information.
Absolutely. That's making a lot of sense to me in terms of the type of courses that people are going for. Because if you think about our schooling system, Erica, and what kind of subjects I'm going to choose, for me, when I was choosing my subjects, it's either accounting or art. So when I come out of high school, I'm not going to be understanding the business economics or the accounting side of it.
Yeah.
And if that's where my business is going to be, I need to make sure that I beef up on that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'm clear on that. Erica, let's talk about funding. Do you help organizations tap into funding in any way? Because what you've described so far has not spoken to any of that.
Yeah. So for a long time, in fact, for the first sort of decade or so, we specifically said we weren't providing financial support or funding for businesses. And that was both like a pragmatic response because we didn't have the money to give people. But also it was born out of the early work that we could do, because if you ask any small business what's their biggest problem or what do they need, they're going to tell you funding.
Yes.
But when you scratch a little bit below the surface, actually they need revenue. You know, every business needs revenue. They don't need funding. They need revenue.
Point taken. Yes.
They need to generate sales.
Yes.
For if it's a product or service. So what is stopping that money coming in? Is it the product? Is it the route to market? Is it, all of the things around that? So actually, if you help people solve those problems and they start generating revenue as a business, the need for funding and financial support disappears. However, so that's sort of, was our focus, is actually get your business fundamentals right. Get your business moving. Sell your product or your service.
That is
regularly.
Assuming that I already have a viable product. Because in my head, I'm thinking, I need to come back on that one. So I'm thinking there's different types of funding, because prior to that, you would need seed funding. And therefore, it's not a turnover issue yet, because you don't have a marketable, viable prototype or product that you can sell. Yeah. But I get the point that you're making. You've got people that have got a tangible product, but they're just not moving forward.
And then if the product isn't right, we've got our product, our maker space, where it's like, come and we'll help you figure out your product kind of thing. But then to your point, at some point, yes, a business needs some money. They need
maybe
cash
to
in
scale,
to develop a new product, to buy a piece of equipment, to invest in a new strategy, to invest in a website, marketing. So we developed our first financial offering. We did a project with the Jobs Fund.
Yes.
2012. Mm-hmm. And that was like a little bit of a challenge for us, because up until now we were like, we don't give funding. Now the question, we were like, well, how do we give funding in a way that doesn't negate everything we've said up to date? So we developed a way of giving people financial assistance, which really was, we'd come to you and say, okay, if you had access to funding to grow your business, in this instance, it was to grow your business, to create jobs, because we needed to deliver jobs. What would you do? What do you need money for? How much money do you need? And we added a caveat, was that we will only give you 80% of the money. So you come back and you tell me I need R1 million to do X, Y, Z. You've got to bring 200,000 Rand and put it in the pool. And we built our very first Jobs Fund project with that. We worked with 45 businesses that created over 400 and something jobs. And we invested 14 million Rand in those businesses, 20% of which those businesses invested themselves. And essentially it developed a methodology that we're still using today. What do you need to grow your business? So the business owner is saying, this is the strategy for my business. This is what I need to do. If I do this, I know it's going to increase my revenue, or it's going to create a job because I've bought a new piece of equipment and I need somebody to staff that or make that piece of equipment work for me. Mm-hmm. And they've put in their skin in the game, so they're pragmatic about what they're spending their money on, because it's their money. It's not just my money.
Are you finding that if you're in a position to give me 100% of the money, I would not handle it the same way? Is that what the data says?
I think that's part of. We haven't done it.
Okay.
So, but part of what the data is showing us, or what the the proof in the kind of pudding was for us. So we'd had people come and say, give me 5 million, one person show, give me 5 million rand, I'll create 20 jobs in the next year. It's like, I know. One person is not going to create 20 jobs in the next year with 5 million rand. Not possible. But when you say to that person, okay, if I give you 5 million rand, you've got to give 1 million back, suddenly you start to get serious and pragmatic about what I'm going to do. So I think the difference is about the pragmatism and the prioritizing of what I'm going to spend this financial assistance on. That's really what makes the difference. And so we've built up, we've found over the last 10 or so years, we've run 3 jobs fund projects in a similar way. Now more and more we have the opportunity to, when we're putting in proposals, that there's a financial element, because we can see how even if it's 20,000 rand with an emerging entrepreneur, 20,000 rand unlocks movement in the business that gets them going, that creates another job or generates more revenue. They can increase what they take home each month, puts them in a different position.
Absolutely.
So we're building. We've got an entity called CDI Capital, and we're trying to drive that as our sort of impact investor, the CDI's impact investor, that we raise money and we invest that money in our businesses, in our members.
And would part of where you source the money be from the Jobs Fund?
Part of the money
into the
businesses, from the Jobs Fund. The Dutch government, our Orange Corners program, also has an innovation fund. We are putting in place systems where we can establish our own loan fund. So we will lend money to people
that are
members at a charging interest, but a non-extractive interest. So interest that is payable, that isn't putting the business under too much pressure.
What are we talking, below prime or
prime? Maybe prime one or two, because we need to cover the costs of running the fund, and we need the money to come back so we can help the next person. So that's really the strategy for and we've got now 10 years of experience of providing mostly grant funding, so it's free funding. How can we shift that to providing loan funding or hybrid products?
And the level of grant funding, is it capped at some point?
So it's varied from 20,000 rand to 100,000 rand to 1 million rand. So it depends on where we're getting the money from and what the money's buying.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
This is such an amazing journey. You've been with the organization since inception, 2021.
2001.
Sorry, 2001. That's what I meant. That was what was in my head.
That's what you were thinking.
So it's 25 years. What would you say are the next goals for the next 5 years?
I would love us to get on to be less dependent on external funders. So to find a more had the word, it slipped me, but a more diversified way of bringing in revenue as well as funding and income, so that it helps us create more of a sort of stable, service-oriented approach to the organization, so we can help people in a more structured and systemic way. If I could achieve that in 5 years' time, then I can get on my white horse and ride into the sunset.
That is absolutely amazing. Where do you think the organization's biggest successes have been? And maybe they could be linked to your own personal successes there.
I think the biggest success is I want to say it's just the scope and scale of the people that we've helped. The variety, the diversity, the fact that there are some household names, there are really some really well-known brands that we've been part of.
Would you like to name drop?
Well, I can name drop one, which is Andile Giovanni, who spoke at our conference a couple of weeks ago. So he's a ceramicist who started off making really small objects in a sort of like a factory in Cape Town, and has developed into a world-class ceramicist who makes the most beautiful, huge objects that sell for large sums of money. And I'd like to think that we were part of his initial journey and helped light some of the fire that sped him along the way. There are a lot of sort of design businesses that are doing really, really, really well, mostly in Cape Town, and that's because we've had 25 years in Cape Town. So, maybe thinking forward is like you can see what happens when you have consistency and reliability and a strategy in an environment for 25 years. There's no rocket science there. It's actually, if we could just replicate that in Johannesburg, in all different parts of South Africa, we can actually transform the sector.
Amazing. This has been such an eye-opening conversation I've had with you. I have never considered myself somebody that's very aware in the art space, but I think after this, I am a certified lover of the arts and culture and all that. So thank you so much for your contribution to the lives that have been changed and for coming here onto this podcast. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you for making me think about, oh my gosh, like all the way back to 30 years plus. It's been a great conversation.
And that is where we leave it with Erica Elk, CEO of the Craft and Design Institute. Please make sure you like and subscribe our channels, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.